being able to go to lodges, visit them, sit in, see a program, and be like, oh, I can't wait to bring this to the podcast, make an episode, have a conversation with our guest about this topic, Haitian Voodoo. But before we get into that, let's welcome our guest in, worshipful brother James Frederique from the
Lycian Lodge 925.
Lycian Lodge 925. And we were just talking about how easy it is to get tripped up with the French, because I'm like, there's no way your name is just James Frederique. Like, how do you actually pronounce this?
Yeah. Well, actually, the pronunciation is French, and we say Frederique.
There you go. Nice. I run into the same thing. I have a Spanish last name. The easiest way to say it is like the letters RC. The fancy way to say it is roll the R's. You get a little Arce. It sounds nice. Yeah, nice and pretty. But you have a much better room that you're joining us from. So for our YouTube live streamers, they're being able to see what you call the garage. But to me, this looks like your little shrine, your little temple here.
Yes, actually, this is what we call in the craft, the voodoo craft, baji, which is if you are a priest, you are required to have a sacred space where you do your devotion, meditation, if you want to call it that. But we do have different rooms where we house the different lois in the Haitian voodoo religion.
Okay. Very cool. Now, I would just want to put this disclaimer out here because you mention it as you kick off your presentation in lodges and say, hey, basically, if you're tuning in to hear about zombies or any of this voodoo magic that has been seen in movies or TV shows, you have come to the wrong podcast. You have come to the wrong brother. We're not going to be getting into that at all. When you talk about Haitian voodoo, to me, it is such a complex combination of people, beliefs, values, traditions, and just a thing that happened in a really unique place during a really important time in history. How did you get started in Freemasonry, and when did you start getting this appreciation or understanding of Haitian voodoo?
It was a journey that, since I was a kid, I've always been fascinated by Freemasonry. And just a little bit of background, my great-grandfather was the 7th Grand Master of Haiti. So I had Freemasons in the family.
No pressure.
However, being away from Haiti since I was a kid, I grew up in the Lutheran church. I had zero contact with anything voodoo at all. Until I started growing up, went to college, and I've met a couple friends that their father are Masons. And so I got interested, and I started talking to a couple of them. They introduced me to their father, and as a matter of fact, I was told, hey, you might not want to go that route. They'll just leave it alone and things of that nature. However, times went by, and I just continued my life. In college, I went to a HBCU down in Selma, Alabama. That was Concordia College. And I left the school, and I'd say probably 3-4 years later, I received a phone call. And just backstory, I was a member of the Rotaract Club, a spinoff of the Rotary Club, but they did it for young females and males in college. So one of the people that I met there were Freemasons, and they thought I'd be a great fit. They recommended me to a lodge. I was living in Kansas City, Missouri then. So they recommended me to a lodge, and times went by, not that I didn't know, until I received that phone call. It was a Thursday afternoon. And the gentleman said, my name is Worshipful Brother so-and-so. I'm from Rising Sun 13, Kansas City, and I've had your application for well over 5 years, but our lodge building had burnt down. And we could not, per Masonic protocol, we can't have or can't take any candidates until we have our building back fully functional. So that's why it took a little time to get back to you. And I said, are you sure? Because I don't know. I don't recall ever putting an application, because nobody ever gave me an application for Freemasonry. He said, no, we've had that application for a while now, because we were meeting at a different lodge building. So we've had it. We just never acted on it because we didn't have our own building to proceed. And he was like, how would you like to come visit us if you're free today? Because I can meet you at the lodge and just give you a tour, just kind of see since you've been waiting around. And I said, all right, well, I used to work in Overland Park, Kansas. The lodge was actually in Kansas City, Missouri, on the other side. So when I got off work, I drove straight there. He met me, gave me a tour of the lodge building. Now, the big part is prior to that phone call, I would say probably 15 to 17 days prior, I had a revelation. I was sleeping. And I started having a weird dream. In the dream, I saw I was being chased by a group of people. And I was running for my life. I kept running and running. They were running after me. I kept running till I came up to what I would describe as like maybe a forest with very, very tall trees. And I was running, kept running and running and running, and they're running after me. And once I got in, they split into two groups. And I'm going, and I start seeing something that looked like a burning bush, like a fire, like a very big fire. And they split into two groups encircling me. And as I'm going towards the fire, a light just snatched me up. And when I recognized myself, I was inside of a lodge building. Now, mind you, I'd never seen the inside of a lodge before. First time, and I am seeing myself inside of a building that I later recognized to be a lodge building. Standing in front of the altar with square compasses, the Bible on top. And now I noticed this gentleman dressed in black and white with a black hat on, came with a very, very big sword. And I started screaming, please do not chop my head. And I dropped on my knees, and the gentleman just grabbed the sword was so big, like very wide. He just lifted up like nothing, and he put it on my left shoulder, my right shoulder, and my head. And I woke up. And just about 15 to 17 days later, I got a phone call from the master then of Rising Sun 13 in Kansas City, telling me that they've had my application.
That's crazy.
They're ready and waiting for me. So, Long story short, I went to visit. We visited, and he told me, how would you like to get initiated Saturday? I didn't know what initiation was. I said, oh, well, yeah, no problem. What time? He said, are you able to get here at 6 a.m.? I said, oh, yeah, I'm off Saturday. I'll be there. So I have my older brother. He's a minister, a Lutheran minister, living in Boston. And I called him. I said, hey, guess what? I just got a phone call, and it was a master of a lodge, and he's inviting me to come for initiation. He said, what? Do not go. I said, if you dare go, that's the last time I'm ever going to see my little brother. They will kill you. I said, what? Nah, we're living in America. I don't believe that. I said, I'm going to go just to see what really is going on. So I got up, dressed like they told me, went to the lodge, and I was made a Mason in Rising Sun 13 in Kansas City, Missouri.
James, I don't know what is more interesting, your story about how you became a Freemason or what we're about to talk about. We never talked about this earlier.
No.
That is from a crazy dream to, hey, we got your petition 5 years ago, and we're just calling you now because our lodge building burned down. Do you still want to be a Mason? To don't join because they're going to take you. I'm never going to see my brother again. So yeah. you come into Freemasonry with all of this, it seems like chaos.
Preconceived notion, yes.
Yeah.
I had a lot of preconceived notion, and I was not afraid because I said, we are here in America. I don't believe, there could be any sort of a thing you go to and you disappear and never show back up. So I didn't believe that.
What was your experience once you actually were initiated and became a member of the lodge and started attending meetings? Did all of those fears that people were trying to put into your head, or that maybe your subconscious mind was trying to inject into you, did any of that become real, or was it the exact opposite?
Oh, the exact opposite. As a matter of fact, as we keep this conversation, we will lean into how I found the Haitian tradition, because if it wasn't for Freemasonry, I would have never found out about the Haitian tradition. Because, like I always said, I only have Freemasonry to thank for bringing me into my own tradition. Because without Freemasonry, I would have never become a Voodoo idolist.
It's so interesting because that is where your story began. You said you were born in Haiti. Your grandfather or past grandfather was like the 6th Grand Master of Haiti. So you had this family tie to both of these things. You came to America, the New World, which really isn't that new because we're on the same side of the hemisphere, but and you start this new life and your past still found you. And then you really started to discover not only what you were, but also who you were. And that had to be kind of the real special opening moment for you, I'm imagining.
It was in the sense that coming from a point of view of Freemasonry where everything is more or less, I won't say philosophy, but it's really a tradition, oral tradition that you learn and you experience if you go that route just by contemplating everything in the lodge. Because you can sit in the lodge and you contemplate and you find a lot. Versus the hands-on Voodoo tradition where you learn everything by, it's just fascinating. You just learn everything and you have yet to understand how do I wake up knowing this thing, because I never had anyone sit me down and taught me this is how you do this, that. Versus in the lodge, we have the catechism. Somebody goes through it and teaches you everything. It's complete opposite with Haitian Voodoo, because no one teaches you anything. You just wake up and you start learning. And again, it's with the communion that you have with the spirit. So that leads me to say, really, the journey from Freemasonry to Haitian Voodoo really has its roots into what I would call the syncretism and the adaptability that I was able to find while living here in America, all the way back from my lineage. My great-grandfather was a Mason. On my mother's side, we do have des Membres, and we're from the southeastern part of Haiti, around Jacmel, Benin. They do have a lot of the different traditions of Voodoo there. And I had never, not one day. My mother was deep, but she never shared any of that with us. She became a Christian, never shared anything. And today, here I am.
So quick question about that. You mentioned this also in your presentation as we were watching you get ready to, you were pulling together the ingredients and getting a bowl that you were putting together. And we'll talk a little bit about what that was. It was like a purification, I would, for lack of a better term, ceremony ritual that you did.
Yeah, from the space, correct.
Yeah, which was really awesome to watch and smelled amazing, by the way, once everything got cooking. But you had mentioned even during your program that you were a Lutheran and that you just kind of started discovering Haitian Voodoo. So my first question is, was it the same dreamlike experience? Were you being chased with, by some guy with a sword and running into the woods and all of these people were surrounding you? Or was it more of a peaceful come to me drawing you to this tradition?
Yes, in a sense, because like I first mentioned, in Freemasonry, someone holds your hand, teaches you everything. Voodoo started coming, I won't say after me, but I started getting drawn to it by meeting a couple of brother Masons from New York. And one of them was Brother Love Smith. He was a priest, not what we call an asombre at that time, but he was a ungamakut, which means he was just a laik, into the Voodoo. So he kept telling me, hey, have you ever looked into this? Because every time I see you, I could see different spirits with you. I could sense them around you. I said, what are you talking about? Because I don't have any, explanation into any of that stuff. And he's like, yeah, you have this spirit around you, that one. And so I would like for you to come and kind of, experience with them a little bit. And I said, nah, I don't think so. I didn't go. But he kept on insisting a lot of times until one day he invited me, because I'm also a part of the Martinist order. And so one time he invited me to a Martinist meeting in New York, and we went. And after the meeting, he everybody left, and he was like, "Yeah, we have a little prayer going on. If you want to stick around, you'd be able to see it." And I'm thinking, okay, just a prayer, okay. So I stayed behind. Everybody that were not supposed to be there left, and that's when we went into a back room, and everything was kind of like here. They had different decorations, different candles, different.
It's like your own preparation room back there.
Yeah. Yes, and that's when it started. And I was just, being curious. I'm just watching, and this spirit came on one of the ladies in there, and the lady just walked up to me and started talking to me about since I was a kid, how she's always been with me, protecting me, but now I become a adult. I turned my back on her. I don't ever, try to connect with them. And I was like, what is she talking about? I didn't know the lady. First time meeting everybody there. And that's how it started. And the spirit, I start like having different dreams. I'm seeing that I'm in different areas and learning different stuff that I had no clue what they were. But it was not scary. I would tell you that much. Because every time I've had a dream or seen anything, it was always someone like my mother, because my mother passed away about 20 years ago now. It would be her coming back and talking to me, or her and she had a cousin that passed away as well. I would either see those two, or sometimes I would just see complete figures. It could be something related to like one of those Catholic saint images. Sometimes I would see, but most of the time it's always my mother or someone in my family that passed away that I would see talking to me and teaching me different type of things.
Wow.
That was before becoming an actual voodoo priest.
I gotta say, worshipful, I get usually about 50, sometimes over 50 guests a year that I get to talk to as part of doing this podcast. You are the clubhouse leader for the guest who has the most interesting backstory to get this conversation going. I mean, we could talk about your life all night long. It's fascinating, but I did want to get into your presentation and start, connecting some of these dots here for our listener. One of the things that you kicked off at the very beginning, worshipful, is you said that if you came to this presentation or this program and you were looking to hear about voodoo, like New Orleans style voodoo that we hear a lot about in the media, that you came to the wrong place. And you mentioned that it was Vodou. Am I saying that right? You pronounced it differently.
Yes, Vodou. We say Vodou, Vodou, which is a spin-off of the Ifa or Vodun in Benin. It's Vodun, Vodun, and coming into the New World in the Americas. So with the French spin-off, it becomes Vodou for Vodou.
Okay. And that was part of your presentation. I was sitting there it was a room full of other brothers in the lodge. And the guys that I was sitting next to, we were kind of having a mini history lesson while you were talking about Vodou. And we're sitting here going, okay, first of all, you got the French in Haiti, the Caribbean, all the trade routes that are happening there. You have the native people of that island who had been there since the beginning of time. But then you also had this huge influx of all of the slave trade route that was happening there, and the slaves that were part of that culture. So in this mixing pot, you had French, natives, and African traditions that were all kind of coming together. If you could briefly summarize, just for our listeners' sake, how did Vodou come to be?
We cannot talk about Haitian Vodou without really mentioning, like I first said, syncretism and adaptability. Haitian Vodou has been significantly influenced by the Catholic religion, by traditions that were already on the island prior to Columbus' arrival. And we have a whole historical context with slavery or the slave trade that has led to the adoption and the actual interpretation of what Haitian Vodou is today. The blacks back then, they could not openly practice anything that they had as a tradition back in Africa. So they had to find a way to adapt and use what they were presented to as the Catholic Church at that time they had to find ways to incorporate their traditions into the Catholic faith. So they wouldn't be persecuted thinking, okay, they are practicing magic, voodoo, or what have you, witchcraft, because they would have lost their lives. So they had to find ways, clever ways, to hide their ancestral tradition into the Catholic, faith that they were going to, first, presented to. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then this was basically just being passed down, as we would say in Freemasonry, basically mouth to ear. It was just being passed down generation to generation, or were there actually churches or temples or sacred areas where people would go in and have a service, for lack of a better term?
Oh, yes. In Haitian Vodou, we do have different areas or regions of the country that are sacred. We have Bois-Caïman, where the revolution, the 1791 revolution, actually started with some of the Maroons. That's a current sacred place in Vodou. We have La Ville-au-Camp, we have the La Couze in the upper Artibonite. It's so many different areas that we have. And some groves in Haiti right now are sacred. They hold a place in Vodou that a lot of us have not even begun to explore. Because Haitian Vodou, again, in essence, though, it's like Afro-Haitian metaphysics together. It's the reality of those two at the top, plus everything else that we come in contact with.
Okay. Now let's talk about some of the misconceptions and the stereotypes, because I just want to get those out of the way, like right away. So in the Vodou that you practice, we're not talking about resurrecting people from the dead. We're not talking about taking over somebody's mind and controlling them from a distance. We're not talking about being able to inflict pain with dolls or other kind of torture devices. Knock out some of these misconceptions for us.
Well, there are plenty of misconceptions in Haitian Vodou, most of which came from television, from Hollywood, and a film such as, I think there's a film called To Live and Let Die. That was back in 1973. Serpent and the Rainbow. That one, 1988, did more justice than people would understand, because there's one part of our conversation we were going to get into about the secret societies into Vodou. Serpent and the Rainbow actually dive in and kind of bring light onto those a little bit. And you have another movie like Child Play from, I think, 1988 as well. So many can consider Vodou to be organized religion, when in reality it is more complex and mostly centered on healing. And I tell people all the time, Vodou is, if anything, is more therapeutic. It's more about therapy that we use to help people with mental illness, therapy for people who don't feel like they belong, therapy for outcasts of different, societies. We take everybody in and give them a platform where they can actually, perform. So really all the misconceptions into Haitian Vodou are not so much away from what we would call reality. It's a matter of understanding, a matter of we don't call that faith, but it's reality, because my reality can be different from your reality. So would the next person's. So those misconceptions, whatever someone could see, for example, as witchcraft in Vodou, I've been to Brooklyn, and I've seen some Jewish rituals at mid-year when they would take a chicken, slit the throat, spill the blood, and they would take that chicken and pass it all over themselves before discarding it. And I'm talking about that's in the Jewish faith. Now, seeing this in Brooklyn, the conception is, oh yeah, they're just doing some nice Jewish ritual. But if a Black person or a Haitian was doing it, automatically we could see how it would be conceived as witchcraft. Like I was just saying, it's just how you conceive what you see with your own eyes. Because what looks like witchcraft to one person is therapy to somebody else.
Let's talk. You mentioned this, and I want to get into some of the secret society or the esoteric impact of it. And it kind of goes back to your circle of your story of your life. Is that you were born in one place, you come to America. That's kind of where you discover like who you are. You become a Freemason. You kind of discover like what you are, what your purpose is, and then you find Haitian Vodou. So what is special to people that understand the esoteric mindset is that you believe in something that holds value, and others that also see that value share that same interest. The rest of the world walks by this and doesn't understand it. It means nothing to them, but to a small group of people, it's special. We could say that about Freemasonry. We could also say that Freemasonry is a secret society, or as we like to say, a society with secrets. And I could see how this would begin to prepare a young person at that time when you were going through this transformation in your life and exploring some of this about your life. Do you feel that because you were a Freemason, you were able to understand the idea of, hey, this is special, this is unique, this isn't weird because I'm a Freemason? I've been exposed to some things that people would walk in and say, that's kind of different. And also, I'm able to interact with other people and kind of, don't want to say keep secrets, but understand the importance of trust that you put into another person, because that's a big principle that we have in Freemasonry.
Robert, you hit the nail on the head, because if it weren't for Freemasonry, I would have never found Vodou. And I am not just saying this, because everything that I've come to understand, to love, as far as the tradition, the Vodou tradition is concerned, I owe it all to becoming a Freemason. Freemasonry opened my eyes to the world. Freemasonry taught me how to love myself. Freemasonry gave me something I didn't have before. A fraternity of brothers that I can count on if I ever need it. Going into the Haitian tradition, it was amazing because I found the very same thing. And I'm not just talking surface level. All the way deep within, I have found a band of people that I can count on. Because when we have a Vodou ceremony in a temple, the idea first is to have everybody come together in unity and share everything, be it what comes from the fields, crops, food. And someone would see something like a cow or a pig being slaughtered. So they're thinking, oh, they're doing a sacrifice. Really, that cow or pig is only slaughtered so everyone that participated in this meeting can have a portion to take home to feed their family. It's not being slaughtered and offered to, I don't know, entity or whatever. It's done so everybody, they would cook the portion, everybody eat some, and everybody can take some to go. So to me, that is what, just like we do break bread in the lodge every time we come to a meeting, we have the same tradition in the Haitian Vodou. It's just, like I said, the surface level is one thing, but the communion with God first, because we do believe in God. Again, I know we will get into like the similarities, how Freemasonry and Vodou have similar beliefs. In Freemasonry, we believe in the grand architect of the universe. And to translate that into Creole, we call that a gamet. Same concept in Haitian Vodou. We believe before anything in the grand architect of the universe. We call him the gamet.
Interesting. Yeah, I was just going to lead right into that, and thanks for kind of laying that out there. We talk a lot about ritual in Freemasonry, which I'm sure to people outside of the craft are like, ritual? What are they, sacrificing things? No, we're not. But it's also the same thing that you use to describe how you practice your tradition is ritual, and I'm sure it's the same thing. Oh, what are you, sacrificing chickens and doing crazy? No. We're not. There's a whole point of this. So let's talk about some of the symbolism that exists between the same and some of the like universal ideas or concepts that are also the same between Freemasonry and Vodou.
Correct. So just to kick this portion off, so rituals and practices in Vodou and as in Freemasonry, both side, we have rituals as a path to knowledge.
Mm.
Same thing in Freemasonry from what I gathered, and when I came into Vodou, it's the same thing. Now, the differences would be in Vodou, we use the Voodoo rituals along with drumming, singing, dancing, offering, and the culmination of those ceremonies or rituals are spirit possession. So when you interact with a loi, they provide you a path to gnosis or Gnosticism, if we could call it that. Because it's knowledge of spirituality that you are getting, and most of the time unconsciously, because the person that is mounted by the spirit, we say possession, but in the correct term in Vodou, we say the person is mounted. The person became a horse for the spirit to ride. You are getting knowledge, because when the period of when you are being possessed, the possessions period is over, you don't recall anything. However, later on, you might have someone that say, hey, I'm having this tummy ache or this headache, and I don't know what to do. And you can tell the person, go get this leaf, that leaf, just boil it and make a tea. And so usually after this possession, you receive some sort of a knowledge from the spirit.
Okay.
Most of the time. And so to talk deeply about like the communications or the culture, like from the Dahomean kingdom in Benin, all the way up to what we have blended the practices of Catholic with the modern day Benin, Congo, the Yoruba, all these practices blended together give us the syncretism of what Voodoo rituals are. Now, I don't have to lecture you about Masonic rituals because you know better than me. So, however, it's just to put it into context. In the lodge, we do have our rituals. We have the opening ritual. We talk about different things. And even in those, I've made spiritual experience myself in the lodge with the opening of the ritual. And it's not our topic today, but just to kind of like give a perspective into when we talk about rituals, and it's really the heartbeat of Freemasonry.
Yeah.
Rituals, same for the Voodoo tradition.
Right.
Without rituals, we would not have any concrete possessions or any concrete connection with the spirits if it weren't for the rituals.
Right. And we use the word ritual and it might scare some people, but everyone listening to this podcast has their own daily rituals that they go through. Whether it's like first thing when you wake up in the morning, I get up, I go to the restroom, I brush my teeth, I come downstairs, I have a cup of coffee, I turn on the TV, I check whatever your morning ritual, however you fall asleep, that's a ritual. How you sit down and eat meals, anything, how you interact with other people at certain points, those are all rituals. I did want to talk about something that's fascinating, and I know we didn't put this in any of the notes before we started talking, but we talk about the concept of Freemasonry is building your Masonic temple, and really the whole secret behind building your temple is working on that relationship with deity and building that place where you can have that conversation and begin to share that love. I want you to kind of have that in your mind. And also I'd like to hear about how going through the leadership line in your lodge, Lycean Lodge, becoming the worshipful, being elected to serve as worshipful master, and then now leading the other brothers in the lodge. Did you have similar experiences going through this in your voodoo practice or your Vodou practice that you were going through?
Yes. Yes, it's coming into the Vodou and get initiated. I have inherited a number of elders, priests and priestesses, and just adherents that have been around for way much longer. Because again, if someone had mentioned anything voodoo to me 7 years from today, I would not have nothing to do with it.
Right.
But I have inherited, just like in the lodge, past masters, good brothers to whisper good counsel in my ears. I have inherited the same thing, because I could talk about my spiritual mom, my mother, the priestess that took me in and gave me the opportunity to meet the Guinea, to meet my ancestors, the people that have made it possible for me to be able to get initiated into the Haitian tradition. That lady gave me that opportunity, and along she had already have many people prior to myself getting initiated at her temple in Jacmel, Haiti. Hundreds of them. Now we are brothers. She is our spiritual mother, and we do have a spiritual bond with each other. So yes, in a sense, it's similar to what you've acquired becoming a Freemason when you become a voodoo priest or a priestess.
And similar to Freemasonry, when it begins, you're like, oh, I'm being initiated into this craft, into this fraternity. I really don't know what I'm getting into. It's something that I wanted to do, but they keep asking me, like, why do you want to be a Freemason? And I'm like, I don't know. There's a couple things, but I don't know what I'm getting into. And you don't know, honestly, until you do know, which is afterwards. But then you start to understand, and really, I think it happens later in the degrees, or even after you're raised to the sublime degree of Master Mason, where you look back and go, all of these things were building up so that I could embrace the confidence to listen to that little voice inside of my head and start doing the things that I need to do, and having that better relationship with deity, whoever or whatever that may be, that's your partner in guiding you through your life. Did you have that same feeling when you were going through, I guess, kind of an awakening of your soul as you were going through the Vodou tradition?
No, that's where the two initiations differs. Both initiation, from a personal experience, are both deeply mystical. We know in Freemasonry, we were not told, but if you can, in hindsight, you were able to feel and sense a lot of things, although you could not see per se. In Vodou, it's completely different. At some point, you do get blindfolded as well, but that's at the end. After you have finished, like you entered the Jevar, and you spend anywhere from 7, 9 to 21 days. And when you come out, because you go into a sacred place, you go in and you have to stay there.
I remember you talking about this. Yeah, that was interesting.
You have to stay there. Now, I can't get.
It's like an isolation booth, basically.
Yes, I mean, we could call it that, but it's not really an isolation booth. You go in and you stay there until it's time for you to come out. You have no outside contact with nobody.
Right. It's like a chamber of reflection, really.
Yes, it is a chamber of. You're correct. It is similar to a chamber of reflection, and we do have the different elements in there. However, most of it would be very. You could feel it. You feel on your skin. I mean, there's older people in there with you, but again, we are getting a different experience. It's the same thing in Freemasonry now, because I've experienced both worlds. It is very much the same thing. However, the Masonic tradition, I am very conscious and aware. I can't see, that's the only thing, but then I'm able to use my senses, my other senses, to perceive what's going on around me.
Yeah.
In the Vodou tradition, you completely rely on the spirits from your laku, from your démembré, which means where I'm from, like from my mother's side, my father's side, all those spirits, that's what I'm relying on them to conduct, to help and protect me while I'm in there, because you don't have a brother holding your hand.
I was just going to go there.
You said, hey, arise. I don't know if I can say.
No, you can. Yeah, yeah. You're not giving any secrets. Yeah,
It's
you have your
follow your
ancestors.
conductor and fear
Yeah.
no danger.
Yeah, that's an amazing experience. I would love to go through that.
Yes, and again, I don't have a physical person holding my hand,
Yeah.
but you could feel the different presence because
Yep.
prior to going into for initiation, there's a ceremony that they do the night before, where they address or you go and ask all the people in your family because everything happened in Vodou through the deceased parents, family. They had the connection before you. Therefore, you can only get that connection by going through them. Now, it's not about dead worshiping the dead or whatever.
No, I get where you're going. It's on the living side, if you want to say that, in Freemasonry, it's a person who is seeking answers, and that you're finding the answers through the help of others that are in the room with you. There's a lot of introspection, a lot of self-reflecting that you got to do at the same time. But to what your point is, yeah, you have a conductor that's walking you around, you're being asked and told things, and then you have to study and learn things in the living world. What I love about your tradition, as you've described it, is you go into this chamber of reflection, and the reason that you're going in there, and I joked around and said, well, it's kind of like an isolation booth. You're pushing away the distractions from the outside world.
Yes.
I don't know too many people today that could live without having their cell phone by their side for more than 15 minutes. Could you imagine being in there for 7 days, no contact with anybody from your family, your friends, no outside world? Yes, there's other people in that room, but now you're opening up your senses and your spirit to your relatives who know you and are finding you and are talking to you and are trying to help guide you and show you the way. That's got to be a really powerful moment, man.
Oh, it is. It is a powerful moment to connect with your past, and it's a pathway to really finding out who you are, because we're saying 7 days. Sometimes it goes 21 days in there with no outside contact. You cannot you cannot even talk to the person next to you. That is not, once you're in there, we cannot talk to each other. So it's actually 7, 9 to 21 days, all dependent of pure isolation. But it is that time you take and do, you do the reflection, the contemplation.
Yeah.
What I'm really looking to do here. What is it I'm here for?
So I'm hoping that if anybody came to this episode that had questions about this, or trying to figure out, like, what is this all about? They're seeing the stuff that's in movies or in TV shows, reading about in books. And now it's like, no, it's just like in Freemasonry. When you come to visit a lodge and you actually meet a Freemason, you're like, oh, this is not like what the stuff is that I read on those negative websites or all the stuff that's out there. I'm actually seeing and hearing this for myself. I want to get into the ceremony that you did in the lodge room, because now this was interesting for me. I saw you come in with bottles of alcohol, and I was like, oh, well, this is about to become a really good program. And you're pouring them into a bowl, and I'm like, what does he do? Is he making like a punch or something? And then to me, I just saw you light it on fire, and I was like, whoa, what is going on here? Now, for our listener, for anyone that's concerned about the safety of the room, the lodge that we were in has a tiled floor, so there was no carpet, nothing, and you had everything under control. But the smell and everything was the first thing that hit my senses as you were explaining it, and you had all of us kind of like line up and come and take whatever that offering was. So I might not be the best. I might not be doing the best for describing what this was. Can you tell us what this ceremony was and what the purpose of it was?
That ceremony was at the end just a demonstration of what we usually do. For example, a lot of people think anything we do in voodoo smells really bad. It's really
well, that smelled amazing. I wish I could get air freshener that smelled like that.
So essentially, the space we were working on, it's a sacred space in the Masonic context. Now, it was totally okay to have, because we were, of course, at recess. The lodge was no longer. So at that point, I had to prepare the space for the energy that we're about to come in. And I tell you what, these energies, they do like a clean workspace. They love everything that smells good. They do not like, if you are a true follower, true priest or priestess, and you are not a person of cleanliness, those entities, those lois, they don't stay where you want, because they love a clean space. Everything has to smell good. They like everything to be top notch. And so in inviting them, and which you may have not, acknowledged at some point when we finished all that stuff, we were able to get people to touch the fire, and everyone that touched it could tell you it was just cold to the touch. Now, that was in preparation of inviting the spirit to be a part of us during the presentation. Their presence, being with us, allowed everyone that decided in good faith, hey, I want to touch it just for the sake of touching it, for them to experience, oh, I'm able to touch live fire, spitting, I'm able to just grab it and it's cold to the touch. Now, I've had a couple people call me since then. You have to explain this to me. How is it that it was cold? I said, we have to get into that later on.
Right.
Because essentially what it was, the presence of the loi, and again, that's the loi of fire, the god of fire. We call him Ogu in Haitian Vodou. So his presence in there allowed, not me, allow everyone present to be able to put their hand on the fire, grab it, do all that ritual purification. Because once you take that fire, and you were able to see some people were just dabbing it all over themselves, they're just trying to do a quick ritual of cleanse with the fire. So that's essentially what was happening.
It was interesting too, because the first couple of us, you took us by obviously those unfamiliar with what you were doing. And I was like, well, yeah, normally you put your hand near a fire and it's going to be hot. And yeah, it was a really cool sensation, but also like a blue flame, which I'm like, oh, that's all the alcohol and everything that's going on. But yeah, and it smelled amazing. And it felt good afterwards. You went and sat down and it was refreshing. So it was very special. And for those that might be asking, like, well, I thought Freemasonry, they didn't talk about religion. And your program, and I'm just saying this again, this was not a discussion on a belief system or religion at all, but really your program opened up like what traditions and values are of the Haitian people, but also a lot of it talked about peace, either peace within oneself, but also peace within others and in the community and the world. And that's what I thought was so special and so beautiful about it. And that's why I wanted to have you come on this podcast and talk about it, Worshipful.
Yes. Again, for the viewers listening, and I'm sure a lot of people have had an encounter with spirituality at some point. We all have. Now, in my case, the first time I did not understand what it was. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. In that regards, talking about, we did not have anything about religion or any specific religious belief that day in the lodge. That's one other point, communal point, that the Haitian Vodou tradition has with Freemasonry. I can be a Freemason. I could be Muslim, Christian, Catholic, whatever, except for an atheist. Same thing with the Vodou tradition. Again, it's a saying in Haiti. Haiti as a country is 99% Catholic and 100% Vodou. Because we do not, for lack of a better word, we do not care you go to church on Sunday, or you go to Bible study on Tuesday night, or you go to fasting Saturday morning at the church. This is just religion. Haitian Vodou as a whole, outside of being some sort of a therapeutic for anyone that believes, it is also a way of life. So we rejoin Freemasonry in that regards, because we take anyone. You don't have to be solely believe in Vodou. Now, you'd hear otherwise. We all have our own personal bias, and that's where I usually caution my fellow priests and priestess, we have to leave our personal bias because this is spiritual. It's not about me. It's about the spirit. It is about what they want us to achieve for humanity through them. And I'll tell you, it is not just for Haitians, because I've met a lot of different people remotely would never have any connection. And I'll give you a quick example. I went to the Grand Lodge of DC, a day of instruction. And I met a brother. I'm not at liberty to say his name because I don't know that he would want that to be public. So we met there, and I was just minding my business. Usually after we finished the Grand Lodge of Instruction, we would partake in having a cigar, just fellowship. I was on the other side having a cigar, talking to some of the brothers from the other lodge. And this brother Mason, gentleman at that time, to me, because I didn't know him, he walked clear from the other side of the room, and he asked me, "Where did you get your cut?" And that's a term, and he's an FBI agent from Colorado. Author, wrote a couple books. You might figure out who I'm talking about because he's been visiting with us in DC for a while. He's a retired FBI agent now. And so when he asked me the question, "Where did you get your cut?" in English, and honestly, at first, I want to think, is he talking about my haircut?
Yeah, that's where I went.
Is he talking about what I know he's talking about? Yes. And turned out he was talking about where did I I was made a priest, because he himself was a Haitian Vodou priest that have attempted on 3 separate occasions to get into the Haitian tradition. And every time he would get rejected, until one time he traveled to Haiti through the Dominican Republic. He went to the northern part in Cap Haitian. He met some people he didn't know before. Just met them. They decided to take him somewhere just to see a ceremony. But in the back of his mind, he wanted to know what are the possibilities of me getting initiated. So he went there. Little did he know, just to give you concept, the spirit already had a plan for him, because he had been trying many years before, twice before, over, I don't know however many years, but he was not successful. Until that trip to the northern part of Haiti, Cap Haitian, he met these folks. He went there, they took his money to help him get initiated. And when he was there, they did not think it would be possible, because he don't have that lineage. And he told me when he was there, a lady got mounted by a spirit, and that spirit demanded that he gets initiated. And that's one little parenthesis I wanted to come to, because talking about spirituality in Freemasonry, I tell my brothers all the time, the day you were initiated, the worshipful master was sitting the east. Be it the worship for the time being or the actual master of the lodge, that individual did not initiate you into Freemasonry. Now, many people won't agree with me. It's okay, because there's a dimension into spirituality you have to understand. A man cannot initiate another man. So essentially, the spirit, because when he wanted, and the person knew, okay, we're just going to do whatever, we won't really do it because we don't believe he should be getting into it. The spirit came up and said, no, today this man is getting initiated. So initiation has everything to do with spirituality. It is first and foremost something you do in spirit. The initiation you receive, be it in Freemasonry or in Vodou, though the acts are different, but the end culminating point essentially takes us where we need to be in spirit.
One more question, because I know we're getting close to the end of our time here, and I really want to thank you for giving me some extra moments, some extra space with you, worshipful. if someone was listening to this podcast episode and they're like, okay, you got me, I'm really interested in this. I'm not going to be able to travel to Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, I'm going to miss out on going to Lyceum Lodge, where they have the most amazing meals after their meetings. Where would you point somebody as a resource to learn more or explore more about Haitian Voodoo?
All right. For somebody that has a background in the Western tradition or Eastern tradition even, I have just two recommendations. There's a book by Dr. Reginald Crossley, and the book is called Vodou Quantum Leap. You could get that on Amazon. It is a great book that it's written in English, and it gives you not just the mystical perspective, it gives you the actual connection as to how you can actually connect the scientific side of that voodoo tradition or Masonic tradition together. This is a great book. Again, it's called The Voodoo Quantum Leap by Dr. Reginald Crossley. And I do have another one called Veve, which we didn't get a chance to get into the Veves as they relate to some of the signs in Freemasonry as well. But we do have a book by another Haitian gentleman called Milo Rigaud. He wrote a book called Veve, and that book dissects a lot of the connections you would have of Haitian Voodoo tradition and the Masonic tradition. As we know, those two were at the same time evolving in the colony of Saint-Domingue back then Haiti at the same time. And we did have a few of the Black leaders that were freedmen. As we know, to become a Freemason, you have to be free-born, or at least free. Some of them were privileged to have been initiated into Freemasonry way back when. So you do have those two. So those two books I just mentioned, again, is Voodoo Quantum Leap by Dr. Reginald Crossley and Veve by Milo Rigaud. Two books you can actually find on Amazon will give you great perspective into what the tradition of Haitian Voodoo really in parallel to Freemasonry, how amazing the two can be and how they show a little bit of twinning between the two of them.
Love it. Worshipful, thank you so much for your time. It has been an honor to have you on the podcast. Past Master of Lyceum Lodge number 925. 925 here in the nation's capital. Worshipful brother James Frederique, although I like when you say it in French way better. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much, my friend.